Hello, Apttus Accelerate 2017. My name is Ryan Headley, and I've been asked to introduce this next session. This next session carries the title, as you are well aware, That's Why Admins Drink. Apttus' own resident MVP, Eric Dreschfield, reached out to me and asked me if I would open this session. You see, a couple of years ago, I wrote a song called That's Why Admins Drink, and Eric thought it would be a great way to introduce this session to everybody. Sadly, I'm unable to attend Apttus Accelerate 2017 this year, so I decided I'd give you a video instead. So without any further ado, let's do this.
Hi everyone, this is our last session of the day and we're really excited because we have a great set of panelists up here. We have 2 Microsoft CRM users and a Salesforce user right here. We have Gretchen, Brendan, and Missy Longshore over here, and they're going to explain why admins drink and how to break the cycle. And right after this session, we're going to head to the happy hour, so we're really excited you all are here, and I'm looking forward to this session.
Yay! Okay, so that's me. In case you needed to see my picture. I am on Twitter, @MissyLongshore. I have my own consulting firm, Longshore Consulting. I'm so glad you're here. We're gonna move quickly because it's hot. Okay, so I talk about the three-legged stool when I talk about what you're looking for in consulting services. So I often talk about how you can have a project that's on time, on budget, or high quality, and you can pick any 2, right? So a lot of times people will talk about this scenario when you're remodeling your house or something like that. And a lot of times your clients or organizations or other people will say, well, I don't know what factors we're considering, so we'll pick cost, right? Because that seems like a good one. We're very cost conscious, as most of us are. And so that will be the primary driving factor. I'm sure we've all experienced that, right? So then we'll sometime move to the next slide, what do you think you get when you pick a quick, cheap project? You get what you pay for, right? So you get a cheap project that's done on the time frame that you want. because you think, oh, I can compromise, you know, it's just my timeline is so important, my budget is so important, my manager will be so happy. But guess what happens at the end? you will get exactly what you thought you were going to get, which is a cheap project. And you should really consider the big picture, so you should think twice, right? So think about the total cost of your project. The total cost of your project is how long is what your consultant's setting up for you going to last, right? And the reason why admins drink, or if you're me, you eat a lot of sugar, is because I get these fix-it projects all the time that come to my door, and they say, hello, we were working with this other consulting firm and they were really nice and they gave us a good deal, but now it's broken and we need you to completely rebuild it from the ground up. And I say, first of all, that's not a project that I want to do, because I have to get in there and completely figure out what someone else did when they were trying to do it on a really streamlined budget, right? And then I have to charge you to do it over again, which is actually going to wind up charging you at least 150% of the original cost. And I feel really bad doing that. It doesn't make me feel good at the end of the day. So make sure you do your due diligence. Any comments, you two, so far?
No, the only thing I would say is sometimes I actually enjoy those projects because the bar is so low.
You can have them.
It's easy to be successful.
That's true. That's true. I say to the client directly, I'll say anything we can do is an improvement, and they do get pretty happy pretty easily. So that is a good point if you are a consultant, and let me know because I will refer them to you. So yeah, make sure you look at all the different data points. Don't skip, just because you have a tight timeline, do not skip the reference check. Encourage your clients to do the due diligence. So if you're on the, how many of you are on the consulting side? Okay, and how many of you are on the client side where you're going to be hiring vendors, consultants, other people? Okay, so a mix, and some people who are just tired and hot, which is totally fine. So talk with references, talk about whether there was after work. Was the original price that they saw the price that they wind up paying? Was it on time? Was it on budget? Was it high quality? How important is this project? Why are you hiring someone? Is the executive team on board? And most importantly, please, please, please use more than one criteria. There's all sorts of articles all over this. I talk about this a lot. You can check that out on my website. I have a great article about how you can save money by hiring consultants. It's not just by going for the cheapest consultant. So I will see you at the sugar farm, wherever that is, and I'm going to pass it off to Brendan.
All righty. Thanks, everyone. So you probably all see the irony here. We're talking about why admins drink, and we're also at the same time preventing you from going to the happy hour. So a lot of times my customers prevent me from going to happy hours. I get those 5 o'clock calls on Friday. So I recognize the irony and I apologize, and because of that, we'll try to get you out of here a little bit early. But I want to share a couple of examples. Whoops, wrong way, apologize. Here we go. So why do admins drink? So sometimes we get some crazy requests, right? Can you install CRM on my machine? That's my favorite one. That's a true story, absolute true story. So you know, the reality is people don't understand the product or what you're dealing with, and that can be frustrating. But also the flip side of that is it's kind of why we all have jobs, why admins have jobs, right? If everybody knew everything about the product, they wouldn't need us. So on the one hand, it's frustrating. On the other hand, I'll take it, I guess. And then too much access. So sometimes with great power comes great responsibility, right? So a lot of times we fight the good fight over who should have the right level of access, and people think they want access, they don't know why, but they want it, and they end up breaking things, and then it's our job to fix those things. And sometimes they're not possible to fix or go back in time, and that's our fault too, right? So that can be frustrating. So another reason admins get frustrated is sometimes there's gaps in the product that we wish were available that aren't. So for example, on the Microsoft Dynamics side, the concept of multi-select pick list, it still doesn't exist. It's coming from what I hear. But you know, if you're a Salesforce.com admin, it's a feature you've had for a long time. So that can be frustrating. And honestly, a lot of times the product updates are all about helping us sell the product, not necessarily helping out admins, right? So admins get left behind a little bit. But the good news is there's passionate developer communities that create tools that allow us to do some of these things. And how do we break the cycle, right? So 2 pieces, education. I think Gretchen is going to talk about this a little bit as well. But being open and honest about what's possible. And I think also, even though a lot of you folks aren't in the consulting world, you're in the admin on the customer side, I would encourage you to try to be consultative, right? Don't just be an order taker, because a lot of times someone will ask for a crazy request and we just go ahead and do it because we don't want to fight the good fight. But sometimes with education, you teach people pros and cons, or hey, let's try the native approach first, and if that doesn't work, then we can go down the customization path. Sometimes that goes a long way, and I've seen examples where we build crazy customizations that never end up getting used. So again, at the bottom, educating again on what's native, what's custom, what the pros and cons are. So I already touched on that. Those are my slides. I'm going to turn it back over to Missy.
Hey, look, it's me. Okay, so you already know who I am. I'm going to ask you to tweet something in a second, so stay tuned. I don't know if I'm pointing it at the wrong place, or Is this where I do the dancing? Yes. Gretchen is our interpretive dancer. We're super excited. Down, that way. Down. Okay. Okay, there we go. It's because there's a monkey inside. So, why do admins drink, particularly me, with the sugar? Okay, so when you have a new or existing system, when you put a lot of improvements in the system, people get really excited and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Everything is going to now happen automatically, right? Everything in the world, I never even have to touch the system, right? So that must include entering data, right? So I don't want to do that anymore because that's boring and that's, not that exciting to me. So especially when you think about, I'm just going to say, millennials who really just only want to swipe their phone or maybe not even touch their phone, maybe they just want to use their watch or whatever. So that's not fun, right, to type and enter data or update it or stuff like that. Or maybe you have people of a certain generation who are used to maybe going to a conference like this, getting back and maybe handing over their cards to an administrative assistant. Whereas if you're anyone like me, most of the organizations I work with, those explicit admin assistant positions have been eliminated, right? Those are probably now your system administrators, right? And so you probably implemented some sort of tool that has some sort of AI that's helping to suck in the contact information from email signatures, but you still need even your executives to do a few clicks to make sure that's the right information and update it, right? Because knowledge and context are the lifeblood of all of what we do, right? And so you need to convince people that this is what they do. And it's really hard when, and it's a new way of doing business, and change requires change management, and change is hard, right? So there's not a lot of magic. So when do we turn to the sugary snacks? When the same users who don't want to learn how to update data or input data with minimal effort, right, because we've all done our job, right, complain that there are duplicates in the system. And they expect the duplicates to magically disappear, right? So raise your hand if you've ever seen the frustration of a user be disproportionate to the problem at hand, right? So like the less experience they have with the system, the more frustrated they get. Yes? Okay, a lot of hands, a lot of head nodding. So like a duplicate in the system will probably not prevent someone from doing their job or closing a sale, right? They can probably figure out which one is correct because it has more data. But it's totally annoying, I get that. But throwing a temper tantrum at me as your administrator or consultant is not really going to make the problem magically disappear, right? So if a user doesn't know anything about the CRM, invariably they're going to complain more and or tell me how to do my job, which is just click a button and it'll go away in 5 seconds, right? Like, I mean, that's why we pay you, right? And I'm like, oh. Okay, so the twist of fate in this story is that your duplicate checking and prevention solution that you've so carefully put in place is literally unable to do its job because of what the user refuses to do, right? They are not putting in complete data, and your duplicate prevention solution needs complete data. So a classic example is with Salesforce. There's this super popular deduping tool called Demand Tools, and it comes with a number of prepackaged scenarios, but it requires that you have information in the system so that it can match against, right? So let's say you have two records, Jose Gonzalez number 1 and Jose Gonzalez number 2. But unless they both have a phone number or an email address or some way to tell, especially if you're here in California where that's an extremely common name, you're not going to be able to tell that, yes, this is the same person. And again, our information is the lifeblood of our organization, and you don't want to dedupe them if they're not a real dupe. So really, I kind of blame the users on this one. Sorry, users. And your puppies are working so hard to find things. I can't believe I missed the puppies earlier today. I apologize about that. Okay, so how do I keep myself from ODing on gummy bears and chocolate cake? I'm going to hand this to, no, there we go, okay. Okay, so my business, Longshore Consulting, runs a survey called Nonprofits Who Salesforce every year. Fill it out now at longshoreconsulting.com, or this is where I ask you to retweet it at Missy Longshore on Twitter. It's my pinned tweet. It's at the top of my page. So even if you're not with a nonprofit, you can spread the word. I really appreciate it. And what I found last year to this year, I'm still finishing up the survey on Friday, is that having clean data or having issues with clean data is one of the top 3 issues out of like 11 different issues. And so you're really not alone, is my point. And also from the survey, respondents indicated that training of both admins and end users on this stuff would really help to solve this issue. So people just might not know that they need to fill in phone and email if it's not complete, right? So, and then there's a technical solution, right? Most duplicate solutions have a thing where you can alert just the admin but not the user on broader criteria, right? So you can do some sort of search for just Jose Gonzalez, just the first and last name, without also the email, phone, full mailing address, etc. So that scenario with all that information, you might want to alert your users, but maybe you can just have a name match that only alerts me as the admin, and I get an email or something like that, or I check a report once a week and go in and manually clean them out, or I go to someone and I say, hello, Sally, I noticed that you inputted Jose Gonzalez twice in the system. Can you please tell me which one is correct? And I love it when they do it like within 5 minutes of each other, right? That's so fun. So the last thing is actually the first thing, which is people and processes come before technology. So I know I put have departmental data czars just because I thought that would be fun, but you probably don't want to use that term. But quick question for you, who owns the data if everyone owns the data? That's right, no one. See, no one raised your hand. So make sure you have someone who owns the data, and maybe give them a wizard hat or something, or a lot of candy or alcohol, so that they know that it's their job and you keep them in that job.
And I would offer that person should be on the business side. IT
Yes.
can't own the data.
Yes.
They just don't know it that well. So that's often a conflict I see, but I always recommend business has to own the data.
Yes. Okay, interpretive dancer, you're up.
Awesome.
Oh, space bar, nice.
I had a really great interpretive dance prepared for this, but I'm actually just too hot to give it. So
Same.
maybe tomorrow. So my name is Gretchen Offerque, and speaking of frequent training, thank you for that segue.
Oh, you're so
I manage the education team at PowerOptics. We just provide training for our clients, both system training as well as end user training within a deployment. And I spend most of my time working on change management with clients. So thank you for that plug as well. Why I have drank as an admin. Actually, one of my favorite things is when a user comes with a mock-up of the system that they would like. Has anybody ever had this happen? I see some laughter. I see some laughters. And you are really at that, yeah. Ooh, I see you spent a lot of time on this. You were kind of up in the middle of the night with this mock-up. It's not at all what CRM looks like, actually. I I'm gonna have to let you down easy, right? You know, so that can be a big problem. Now you have to spend time, this person has spent time, you have to spend time listening to how they would like the system to work, knowing that the gap between what they're asking for and what the system does natively is maybe a bigger gap than they would like it to be. So how do we prevent that as admins? Well, there's a lot of things, but I want to emphasize one of them here just for time's sake. One of them is side-by-sides. So if you brought me into a conference room and asked me to tell you what I do, I can tell you right now you would get about 50% or less of what I do. So if that is the only way we are relying on getting requirements from users is to ask them and then say, well, you said these are all the requirements, we are actually missing a whole bunch. And just to some of the things that Missy was talking about of how are they entering data? How complete is their data? If you sit next to them and watch them work, you are going to see a lot more of your requirements. And you can actually build a system to do that. So I try to explain to employees that, you know, we are going to be able to watch what you do, and we're going to be able to build a system that does or supports what you're doing, assuming they want to go with current state, but that's another story. But we tell them how to prepare for the sessions. You don't need to mock up what you want. Just come with your brain, and we tell them what to bring to the session so they know how to prepare and don't over-prepare in the middle of the night, although we do like that fervor. Just 30 minutes explaining how the platform works can really help employees envision what they're going to be doing. So oftentimes we do what we call the function overview. It's not a demo. It's just to help them understand the look and feel and what they might be doing every day, help them envision their future role. So doing that before you engage employees around design is a really great tip. All right, well, I'm standing between you and your drinks. So I think we do have time to take some questions, but I also don't want to...
We won't be offended if you...
Any questions?
But we will dance.
Yes.
I will not dance. At least not for a little bit.
There's a handheld mic in the back if anyone wants to ask something.
Just raise your hand and I'll bring it to you.
We will not be able to hear you without the mic.
All right, no questions. I'll leave you with this.
There
Oh,
we go,
we have a
there's
question.
Just ask a question and Brendan will answer it for you.
Yep.
So I'm a consultant myself over in San Ramon, and I know that requirements gathering can take up a lot of time. You're going through the same things. Is there any time that you don't do a follow-up, or you just do like an interview, or do you always kind of go through at least what's your bare minimum that you do for requirements gathering?
I mean, I know we take sort of the measure twice, cut once approach, so we probably spend a little bit more time on the requirements gathering side. And that's just experience over time, and you know, this sort of, I've heard over the years people say you always have time to do it right the second time and never the first, so that's kind of our mindset. So I would say, you know, we have a chunk, our requirements gathering is between 1 to 2 months typically for an iteration of work, and that's full, you know, design. But we find it very, very valuable. And a lot of times our customers are larger customers, so the project isn't a four-week project, right? It's a 6-month project type thing. So.
I thought it was an excellent answer.
Well, thank you.
I thought Gretchen's slide was really good, so I wanted to put it
I
back
just
up.
have a comment. This was the best session I've been at all day. You guys described my life.
Oh, yes!
Good.
Awesome.
I like this guy.
I will drink to that.
Yeah, checks in the mail, buddy.
Sad
Sugar
but
addicts
true.
too?
Yeah. Sad but true.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
Awesome.
Any other questions? All right.
Wonderful. Have a great
Brendan really wants to
Evening.
get out of here, but I'll be hanging out
Yes.
next door.
No, we'll stay,
in
we'll stay.
here.
Picking on me. Tough crowd. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Ooh, music.
It's so weird to have you.